A dispatchable location is a new term. Okay.
So how many local agencies have taken over routing those calls from CHP? Because in my city, Elk Grove, they took over the responsibility of calls, but how many agencies have done that in the state?
I believe we still have, I'm going off of memory and I apologize, somewhere between 15 and 18 jurisdictions that still need to accept their wireless 911 calls.
So the vast majority do accept calls?
Yes.
So that makes it easier because they're dealing with dispatchers that are familiar with that area.
Correct.
In some locations.
Correct.
Wait. So
That's a big number.
that is meaning they get at least one tower. So you're counting jurisdictions that get one tower out of, in some cases, hundreds of towers. The vast majority of the state is still being routed to CHP directly, right?
I believe
the vast majority of cell towers in the state is still being routed to CHP.
I do not believe it's the vast majority. I believe CHP will have the statistics when they come up and go through this.
I'd be interested to see that broken down by cell towers, because my local jurisdictions have a hard time convincing anyone to get the routing directly to them.
I'm under the impression most jurisdictions don't take 911 phone calls. It's still routed through CHP. The vast majority do. So you better check your facts and figures on that. And then number two, in my city I live in, 911 individuals with 911 phones can register with the local PD. So if they do call in, they have facts and information about where they live, and if they're diabetic, certain information you want to give up, they'll have ahead of time. So that's just a thought. But yeah, as far as I know, we're one of the few agencies, my city, one of the few cities in the region that does take phone calls, 911 phone calls. So that's the thing. I think we need to push it down the jurisdictions. A lot of them don't want to because it's obviously time consuming, but they're the best informed. They know their area, their jurisdiction better than anybody else. They should take those phone calls.
And the point that gets very complicated on the technical side is that when you have several jurisdictions within a cell sector, the primary PSAP that's identified to take those calls initially may not be the primary PSAP to respond. So those calls, whether it's transferred from CHP, it might be transferred from another law enforcement PSAP. So it's a complicated process. I'd like to go ahead and finish my testimony. In addition, a dispatchable location, which is a new term per the FCC, is the street address of the calling party plus any additional information such as floor, suite, apartment, or similar information that may be needed to accurately identify where the location of the calling party. What this means is that when you're in a high-rise, they will be able to leverage the wireless networks within the high-rise to actually identify where you're calling from. So this is pinpointing the accuracy a little bit better than just 50 meters from your telephone call. And when you're in a large building, that makes a big difference. In addition, I'd like to also note that's very important. In the January 2015 order, Phase 2 information must be delivered to wireless 911 calls within 30 seconds. What this means is the 911 call may initially go to a PSAP with Phase 1 call location information. However, no later than 30 seconds, the latitude and longitude of the call should be available to the PSAP. The PSAP would need to rebid or refresh the wireless call by hitting what is called the Request Automatic Location, it's called ALI information, button on the monitor to get the location. So they may have to rebid several times. In 2014, an average of 63% of 911 calls initially go to the primary PSAP with Phase 1 information, leaving 37% going to a PSAP with Phase 2 accurate call information. In 2014, 92% of wireless calls transferred to a secondary PSAP, which is Fire and EMS Services, received Phase 2 location information due to the rebid of the call, which happens during the transfer. The challenge of California faces with 911 calls is the same challenge that every other state faces. Collectively, we need to manage expectations of the public, find ways to improve the call location accuracy, and ultimately provide a wireless 911 system that equals legacy system location accuracy. At the state level, we have developed a public education and outreach materials that can be used by all PSAPs today. Materials include public service announcements, billboards, materials that can be used at bus stations, train stations, or other public locations. Most important education and outreach message is know your location. Because of the challenges that we face today, we need the public to know that. We know that during the stress of a 911 call, it is not easy or even possible to know your location. The State 911 Advisory Board, which is made up of police chiefs, sheriffs, fire chiefs, and 911 professionals from CalNENA and APCO, have been working to find ways to improve the location accuracy. The work group supporting the 911 Advisory Board, along with representation from the 911 county coordinators, PSAP managers, and industry leaders, are developing steps we can take now to assist in forward-thinking options to improve location accuracy. April 7th, the board participated in an industry day to ensure that industry leaders were able to share solutions. We heard 4 viable presentations. The expectation is that at the May board meeting, we will have some recommendations from our experts on ways to improve location accuracy working with the industry leaders. We know that next generation 911 will improve location-based routing of 911 calls as well as location accuracy. Our next generation 911 Northeast pilot project, consisting of 13 counties and 36 PSAPs, have provided valuable data on location-based routing. In the first 6 months of the pilot project, there were savings of approximately 45 hours of transfer time. That equates to about 15 minutes per day and is extremely noteworthy. The success of the pilot was possible not only by the use of technology, but the collaboration between local and fire jurisdictions. Successes notwithstanding, the project also raised some challenges that we must address. The Next Generation 911 pilot project is based on an IP network to route the wireless calls. An IP network is basically a data network. IP networks are not regulated by either the FCC or the California Public Utilities Commission. Therefore, a next-generation network would not have regulatory enforcement. A network outage over an IP network does not have the same outage notifications as current wireless or landline 911 networks. In April 2013, there was a 911 outage that affected 6 states with next-generation networks. The state of Washington lost all 911 services for 6 hours. The northeast part of California lost partial services for the same 6 hours. There was no notification of an outage, as an IP network does not recognize outages the same way. The findings did show the cause of the outage was programming, and a programming issue within the network, and has been corrected. But with any data network, there are many points of failure. Operating a 911 over an IP network brings new challenges we did not expect. Funding. The state emergency telephone number account was established in 1976, funded by a monthly fee on landline telephones for intrastate voice calls. As you can imagine, the Setna review collection has decreased over the last several years. Landlines are being disconnected and replaced by smartphones. Likewise, intrastate voice calls are being replaced with text, emails, and social media communications. By fiscal year 17-18, the Setna, which is the State Emergency Telephone Number Account, short acronym, is projected to be in a deficit. The deficit is based on maintaining the networks and equipment supporting the current legacy 911 system and does not consider cost to upgrade to the next generation 911 services. Preliminary cost to upgrade the legacy 911 system to next generation 911 is roughly $900 million over 5 years. The estimate includes maintaining the current legacy systems during this 5-year upgrade. It is estimated that after the upgrade, the operating costs will level out to approximately $150 million per year. These costs are based on the pilot projects that we've had in place for the last 3 years and tracking the costs. So in conclusion, we look at the question being addressed at this hearing: will rescuers know where you are? In California, if you call from a landline telephone, the answer is yes. If you called 911 from a wireless telephone, the answer is not always. Is this acceptable? No. Can it be fixed? Yes. But it will take some time and funding, and here's what we think needs to happen. We need to work closely with the wireless carriers and see if they can improve the 911 accuracy rate in California much quicker than required by the FCC. As a 911 community, the FCC requirements for wireless accuracy will take too long. While next generation 911 shows location-based routing can be achieved, as well as improved location accuracy, should a network as critical as 911 be operated over an IP network which is unregulated? Are there options, or do we have safeguards that can be put in place into an IP network that will provide an appropriate quality of service and enforcement? This needs to be further researched, and there's no easy answers. We can look forward to the recommendations developed by the 911 Advisory Board. The vendor proposals that we saw on April 7th show promise and potential ways to improve the wireless 911 call location accuracy. The partnerships that we saw, the vendors as they were presenting, was very encouraging. The CETNA needs to be solvent to continue to provide 911 services in California. While researching moving toward next generation 911, we need to review the number of PSAPs in California. Developing a new network provides the opportunity to unify and ensure that we provide equal services to all of California. And lastly, we need to heighten the public's awareness of Know Your Location when calling 911 services. Thank you for the opportunity to provide information today on this very serious subject, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Okay, I think Assemblymember Williams, you have a question?
So I understand the thought behind making sure that you get together all of the brain trust to determine what are some of the best ways to increase accurate routing and location data. What I don't understand is when we have award-winning, celebrated current methods that you can use right now to increase that accuracy, why we don't do it. I extended to you over now, I believe, a year and a half ago, the offer of trying to get money allocated in the budget. If it's a budget issue, I'm willing to go to bat for you. Why can't we set a deadline of this budget to have a plan that we are going to ask for money from the governor to do?
What I can do is ask that the 911 board have a special meeting and we can get the work group together. Again, I want to make sure that the experts and our PSAP managers and county coordinators are part of this decision because they're the ones that work with this on a daily basis. I do have some reservations that a 3-year period to get to all the cell sectors is a little concerning. I believe we have some recommendations that will get us there much faster after what we heard on April 7th. So I will commit that I will touch bases with the board and see if we can have another special session. Our April 7th was a special session. Normally we only meet quarterly. Everyone on the board absolutely recognizes that this is a critical issue and they want to help solve it, but they want to do it right. So we have been doing the research.
I appreciate that.
Good to hear that, Karen. So hopefully you'll get that special meeting sooner versus later. Also, is there a way you can give me a breakdown, my office, a breakdown of the funding needs for the various 911 programs that you currently talked about as well?
Once we have our special meeting with the 911 board, we will be able to identify what those costs will be based on their recommendations, but I'll be glad to do that as well.
Okay, hopefully sooner, not later. Thank you.